Introduction and second reading.
I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you, Speaker. I move that a bill be introduced for an act to amend the Road Rules 2014 to reduce maximum speed limits for various areas and zones, to amend the Road Transport Act 2013 to require a review of the operation of the legislation governing speed limit signs, and for related purposes.
The question is that this bill now be introduced. All of those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
I bring up the bill, an electronic copy of which has been provided to the clerk, and move that this bill now be read a second time. I rise today as the New South Wales Greens spokesperson on sustainable cities and active transport to introduce the Road Legislation Amendment Speed Limits Bill 2025. I'd like to start by acknowledging the incredible members of the community, the industry experts and advocacy groups who have joined us today, who care deeply about creating safer streets and ensuring everyone gets to their destination safely. I thank all of you for being here for this morning and for supporting this important evidence-based reform to keep people safe.
Yeah.
Our streets should be shared spaces for people and not just cars. They should be safe and vibrant places that allow people to get where they need to go safely, regardless of whether they're walking, riding their bike, or driving their car. Unfortunately, that's far from the reality for many streets across New South Wales. Too often we see roads built with the singular purpose of getting cars through as quickly as possible, with little to no consideration for people who walk, ride or roll, and how they interact with these important public spaces. Unsafe speeds add to the risk for these most vulnerable road users, including people who walk and ride bikes, and especially children and older people. The United Nations World Health Organization, or WHO, Streets for Life campaign calls for safer speeds to help tackle this growing problem. They are advocating for lawmakers to implement safer speeds of 30 kilometres an hour on streets where pedestrians, cyclists and others who are most at risk mix with motorised traffic. This bill seeks to give effect to this WHO recommendation and aims to bring New South Wales laws in line with global best practice to keep all road users safe. Turning to the detail of this bill before us, Schedule 1 seeks to introduce safer default speeds in several identified areas. This includes altering the default speed for school zones and areas marked by a school bus stop zone to 30 kilometres an hour. Similarly, the default speed for high pedestrian activity areas, local traffic areas and built-up areas will also be set at 30 kilometres an hour. The maximum allowable speed for shared zones would be 10 kilometres an hour. Currently, the default speed for school zones and school bus zones is 40, while the default speed for residential streets is 50. The reforms proposed under this bill have been endorsed by a range of independent organisations who support evidence-based laws that will make our streets safer for all. This includes the Royal Australian College of Surgeons, as well as academics and experts in the field from the University of Sydney. It includes organisations advocating for improved safety for people who walk and ride bikes, including 30 Please, Better Streets, Bicycle New South Wales, Safe Streets to School and Walk Sydney, as well as road safety organisations, the Australasian College of Road Safety, the Little Blue Dinosaur Foundation and Road Sense Australia. These reforms have also been endorsed by environmental groups, including Doctors for the Environment Australia, Parents for Climate Change and Climate Change, Balmain Roselle, and I'd like to thank all of you that are here from that list today. You'll notice that this represents a diverse cross-section of experts. We have those like the Royal Australian College of Surgeons who are on the front line dealing with road trauma. They understand the impact road injuries and fatalities have on people and their families. Others are peak road safety bodies and academic experts who understand the evidence and know what reforms will work to help keep people safer. Then we have those like Michelle McLaughlin, founder of Little Blue Dinosaur Foundation. Michelle became an advocate in this space after experiencing first-hand grief that comes from losing a loved one to road trauma after her son was struck by a car and killed at just 4 years of age. I can't imagine what that must be like, and Michelle's story is heartbreaking, and I want to commend Michelle for the work she's doing to ensure that others don't go through the hurt and loss that her family experienced. These organisations have not signed up to support a partisan bill. They are not endorsing the Greens. They are endorsing evidence-based reforms that are in line with the UN recommendation and recognise best practice around the world. At the end of the day, that is what this comes down to. This bill does not represent an extreme proposal or fringe ideas. It represents an evidence-based approach that has been tried and tested in many other jurisdictions that has proven to make our streets safer for all. The evidence to support the measures proposed in this bill speaks for itself. A person struck by a vehicle at 50 kilometres an hour has only a 10% chance of survival. So at our current default speed for residential streets and built-up areas, you are looking at only a 1 in 10 chance for an incident where a person is hit by a car. At 40 kilometres an hour, you do see an improvement with a 60% chance of survival if a person is struck. So for our school zones, the odds are a little higher for a person to survive an accident, but it's still almost the toss of a coin. But when you move to 30 kilometres an hour, this is the sweet spot. The survival rate for a person hit at this speed increases to 90%. 9 out of 10 people hit at 30 will survive. Now let's let that sink in for a moment. This represents an exponential increase in survival rate, including for some of our most vulnerable road users, our kids. Now let's be clear, what is proposed in this bill is a simple measure, but it's one that would have a significant impact on the survival rate for people involved in incidents on our roads. I have no doubt that each and every one of us in this place wants to ensure that people in our communities using our roads get home safely to their loved ones. At a state level, New South Wales has committed to working towards zero road fatalities. I'd like to read you an excerpt from that commitment because for me, this really encapsulates what we are trying to achieve here today. The Working Towards Zero commitment page says that the New South Wales road toll isn't simply a number, it is people. Sadly, it's closer to home than you think, and it's people like you, grandparents, mothers, fathers, children. And it's a number that's unacceptable, no matter how small it gets, until it gets to zero. That should be the aim for all of us, government, law enforcement, business, communities, families, and individuals. We should work together to do everything in our power to push the number of deaths on New South Wales towards zero. I'd like to reflect on that aim for a moment because it is an important one. We should be aiming to get our road fatalities down to zero. And what is being proposed in this bill today would go a long way towards helping to make that a reality. This bill is designed to provide greater protection for people who are most at risk when they're near a road, people who are walking or people who are on their bikes. The Departments of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications, Sport and the Arts rightly identifies that pedestrians comprise the single largest road group because almost everyone is a pedestrian at some point. People walk for leisure, to go to work, to go to school, or the local shops, or to walk to bus stops, light rail stops and train stations to connect to public transport. Pedestrians are identified as a vulnerable road user group in the National Road Safety Strategy 2011 to 2020 because in the event of a crash, they have little to no protection compared to everyone else. People walking relatively lower distances compared to other road users relatively lower distances compared to other road users, but they comprise 13% of all road fatalities in Australia. Looking at the preliminary report on road fatalities for New South Wales in 2024, we can see that 340 people lost their lives. 51 of those deaths were vulnerable road users who were walking, cycling or riding a scooter. Looking at the signposted speed for where these fatalities took place, 16% were in 50 kilometres an hour zones. Now, looking back at that statement I read a few moments ago from the government's Towards Zero commitment, we need to remember that these numbers are not mere statistics, and unfortunately, the term road toll does not accurately reflect the gravity of what we're referring to. They represent people's lives. 51 people who were walking or riding their bikes in our communities across New South Wales last year lost their lives. That's 51 people who didn't make it home to their families, the impact of which will reverberate forever, and we can and should do better. We have world-leading examples to draw on to show us what can be achieved if we adopt an evidence-based approach to making our streets safer. The most recent example is from Helsinki. In August this year, it was reported that Helsinki had gone officially 12 months without a single road fatality. Prior to that, they would average around 30 road deaths every year in their city. That is a significant improvement. You may be wondering what changed to bring the number to zero, and the answer is the same one proposed in the bill before us today: safer speeds. Helsinki altered their default speed from 50 kilometres on residential streets to a safer 30 kilometres an hour. Now, I will note that the 30-kilometre changes in Helsinki were supported by improving streetscapes, by creating more shared spaces for pedestrians, additional street trees and a narrower space for cars. They also invested in much needed infrastructure for people walking and cycling. However, the introduction of safer speeds is seen very much as the baseline upon which many of these other measures are built. And once again, the results speak for themselves. We can only assume that roughly 30 more people made it home safely to their loved ones in that city that year. While Helsinki may be the most recent example, they are by no means on their own. Spain, Wales, Bogota, Ho Chi Minh City have all introduced 30-kilometre speeds within their cities. Researchers at The Conversation noted that in 2022, at least 180 cities worldwide recorded 0 road deaths. More than 500 cities with populations of more than 50,000 have achieved 0 road deaths multiple times. A significant factor has been the introduction of safer speeds, with the researchers warning that Australia's current default of 50 kilometres an hour is unsafe. Now, we have the potential to change that. We have the potential to bring our road death toll down to 0, to ensure hundreds more people make it home to their families every year. And this bill could be a big part of making that a reality. Now, just imagine for a moment what it would feel like if next time the figure was reported and people looked at cities and states keeping people safe on the road, and they saw that our state was actually part of the solution. We could keep people safe by bringing our laws in line with recognised global best practice. If it's good enough for Helsinki, and it's good enough for Spain, Wales, Bogota, cities across the UK and Ho Chi Minh City, then it's good enough for us in New South Wales. Now, for a moment, I'd like to take a deeper dive into some of those who would benefit the most from the proposed reforms, because even within the vulnerable road user group of people walking and cycling, we know there are some who are more at risk than others, particularly kids. Road Sense Australia reports from 2018 to 2019, transport incidents were the leading cause of death for those between 0 to 14 years of age, and the second leading cause of death for those aged 15 to 19. Little Blue Dinosaur Foundation notes that in 2022, 1/3 of the 43 children killed on our roads that year were pedestrians. In just the last couple of weeks, we had a heartbreaking death of a 5-year-old who was just scooting home from her school. Road Sense Australia goes on to outline why children, particularly those groups from 5 to 14, are more at risk. They explain that children in this age group are unable to make sound and safe judgments when dealing with traffic. This is due to undeveloped physical and cognitive skills, which can leave them at risk even if they are aware of and have been taught the appropriate road rules and road safety. They go on to note that at this age, children are more prone to being hit by drivers when travelling unsupervised because of their small height and stature, making rash decisions due to underdeveloped peripheral vision and directional hearing.
I apologise, Member for Balmain. I can tell you are nearly finished the speech and probably only have a couple more minutes left. So it is 10:30. We were meant to interrupt, but with the concurrence of the House, we'll let you continue unless there's any objection for a few more minutes. I'll take that as accepted.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Thanks very much. And getting distracted by friends, other vehicles, or simply not foreseeing danger. Finally, they argue that this is also the age when we often start to see children walking to school. This heightens their risk once again. While states across Australia have rightly taken steps to introduce school zones with safer speeds of 40, we know from the evidence that this speed does not go far enough to provide the best chance of preventing crashes involving people walking. 30 kilometres is now recognised and supported as the safest speed to have in areas of increased pedestrian activity. We also know that school zones themselves can be far too limited. We need to ensure that children are safe for their entire journey to and from school, not only when they are immediately outside the school gates. This means recognising that our built-up neighbourhood streets should also have safer speeds. Now, I'm a mum of 3 young kids, and if you're in the inner west, you might see us piled onto my cargo bike. The kids have their own bikes too, and we encourage them to be active and independent and to walk or ride to school, but it is very, very scary. And I know that the number of families who feel confident allowing their kids to walk or ride or scoot to school, to go to afternoon sport, it has declined significantly, and a big part of the reason for that is safety. I hear from parents who contact my office regularly raising concerns about streets that are unsafe for their kids. Unsafe speed is a key factor at play because when kids are learning to become independent and to get about more freely, they need somewhere safe to do that. Introducing safer speeds on local neighbourhood streets is one of the best ways to boost walkability and give people the confidence to go out and about with their kids. And that brings me quickly to the broader benefits that we would gain here in New South Wales if we adopt the proposed changes. Local streets with safer speeds are more walkable, people feel confident to hop on their bike. It also cuts congestion, reduces pollution, and is hugely beneficial to health. This is reinforced by Dr. John Crozier from the Royal Australian College of Surgeons, who joined us here today, and he said that lower vehicle speeds make it safer for people to walk and cycle. This helps children, older residents and local families feel more confident using their streets for daily movement. When more people walk or ride, communities become healthier, air quality improves, and local shops and parks come alive with activities. And he went on to say that RAC supports residents and local leaders in advocating for this initiative, not just as a safety measure, but as a way to build a more connected and active community. I have about 30 seconds, if that's okay. The bill before us today proposes evidence-based reforms that are supported by the World Health Organization and that have been implemented in cities and the world to enormous success. The changes in this bill could help save countless lives. Deaths on our street are not inevitable, and we should do all within our power to ensure that they do not happen. That is what this bill is about, saving lives, particularly our children. We know this bill will deliver significant livability improvements with vibrant, walkable and healthy neighbourhoods. It will help us to create streets that are truly shared spaces for people and not just cars. We know that New South Wales will be in line with other world cities who are doing their part to create safer and more vibrant streets for a relatively simple reform. There is so much to gain, and I hope to see this bill supported when it comes back for debate early next year. I'd like to take another moment to thank my office who have worked so hard, to thank all of you who have joined us today in the gallery and everyone who has spoken up in support, all of the organisations, and have signed our open letter. Your support for safer streets is so important. I commend this bill to the House.
Thank you. I call the member for Shell Harbour to move that debate now be adjourned.
Speaker, I move that this debate now be adjourned.
The question is that debate now be adjourned. All that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Member for Balmain, you need to ask me something.
Yes, go for it.
You need to ask me to fix the resumption.
Where am I? I ask you to fix the resumption of this debate as an order of the day for a future day, and many thanks for your indulgence.
No problem. I will fix the resumption of this debate as an order of the day for a future date. And it being after 10:30 and in accordance with the resolution of the House on the 15th of November 2025, subsequently amended on the 21st of October 2025, debate is interrupted to allow the House to proceed with the deferred divisions arising from the...
And I thank the member for Balmain for her question. I know this comes from a deeply caring place. I've worked with the member for Balmain, and I know that she's very concerned about people who experience harm from gambling of all sorts. So thank you for this question. The government has been going through a process of evidence-based consultation with the industry to make sure that we are looking after people experiencing harm, but at the same time protecting jobs and economic value to the state. Now, going back to the questions he asked about those exemptions, we agree they need to be looked at. We're going through that process now, but we have to do it in a fair and measured way. And that requires us reaching out to those people who have the exemptions and giving them the opportunity to tell us why they should still have those exemptions. And if they do not have a good reason, then we will look at removing those exemptions through the Independent Liquor and Gaming Authority.